Equals my mother built a playroom in her basement. I don't think we're alone down here. When Mom announced she was building a playroom in the basement, I thought it was the best news I'd heard all year. I was 8 years old, and the idea of having my own space downstairs felt like getting a secret kingdom. Our old house had plenty of room, but the basement had always been off-limits, a dim, musty place where Mom stored Christmas decorations and Dad's tools before he left us. "It'll be perfect for you and your friends," Mom said, ruffling my hair as we stood at the top of the basement stairs. "A place where you can be as loud as you want." The renovation took 3 months. Every day after school, I'd hear the sounds of construction echoing up through the floorboards, hammering, drilling, the scrape of furniture being moved. Mom had hired contractors, but she was very specific about what she wanted. I remember her spending hours drawing diagrams at the kitchen table, measuring and remeasuring dimensions with a ruler. "Can I see it yet?" I'd ask almost daily. "Not until it's finished, sweetheart. It needs to be perfect." When she finally unveiled the playroom, it took my breath away. The basement had been completely transformed. The concrete walls were now painted a cheerful yellow, with hand-painted clouds drifting across a blue ceiling. Soft carpet covered the cold floor, and toy shelves lined 3 of the 4 walls. There was a reading nook with bean bags, a craft table, and even a small television with a VCR. But what caught my attention most were the toys themselves. They weren't new, I could tell that much, but they weren't old enough to be vintage either. They looked like they'd been gently used, loved by other children. There were dolls with slightly matted hair, toy cars with minor scratches, books with worn spines and dog-eared pages. Where did all these come from? I asked, picking up a stuffed rabbit that smelled faintly of a perfume I didn't recognize. "I collected them," Mom said simply. "From garage sales, thrift stores. I wanted to make sure you had everything you could want." I spent hours down there that first week. Mom was right, it was perfect. But after a while, I began to notice things that seemed odd, though I couldn't quite articulate why they bothered me. The toys, for instance, seemed to have very specific wear patterns. The stuffed animals were faded in places where anxious fingers might have rubbed them. The books had particular pages that were more worn than others, as if someone had returned to read the same passages over and over. One coloring book was half-finished, with careful attention paid to staying within the lines. Then there were the toys that seemed oddly personal. A wooden jewelry box that played "Fur Elise" when opened. Inside, I found a small gold ring that was too big for my fingers but too small for an adult's. A diary with a tiny lock, though the key was missing. When I tried to open it, I could see that most of the pages had been filled with someone's careful handwriting. "Mom," I called up the stairs one afternoon. "Whose diary is this?" Her footsteps were quick on the stairs, quicker than usual. "What diary, honey?" I showed her the small pink book. Her face went pale for just a moment before she smiled and took it from my hands. "Oh, that. Just something from a garage sale. You know how sellers sometimes forget to clean things out." She tucked it under her arm. "I'll get rid of it. You don't need someone else's old thoughts cluttering up your beautiful new space." But she didn't get rid of it. I found it the next day, tucked behind some board games on the highest shelf. This time, I was more careful. I only looked at it when Mom was busy upstairs. The handwriting was definitely that of a child, someone close to my age. The entries were dated from 2 years earlier. The first few pages were typical kid stuff, complaints about bedtime, excitement about a lost tooth, descriptions of dreams. But as I read further, the entries became stranger. "The lady says I can call her Mom if I want to. She's building me a special place to play. My new room is almost done. The lady showed me paint samples today. I picked yellow because it's happy. The room is finished now. It's so pretty. The lady bought me lots of toys. She says they're all mine forever and ever." The entries stopped abruptly after that. I told myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe the child who'd owned the diary had moved away, and her family had donated her things. That would explain why so many of the toys seemed to have come from the same source. But something about that explanation felt wrong. That night, I asked Mom about the previous owners of our house. Previous owners? She was washing dishes, her back to me. "Oh, we bought this house new, sweetheart. We were the first family to live here." "But what about before it was built? Did other people live here?" She turned around, drying her hands on a towel. Her smile looked strained. "Why all these questions?" "Just curious." "Well, there's nothing interesting to be curious about. Just an empty lot before we bought it." She hung up the towel with unnecessary precision. "Why don't you go play in your beautiful room? I worked so hard to make it perfect for you." I went downstairs, but instead of playing, I sat in the reading nook and thought. The house was new, but the neighborhood wasn't. We'd lived here for 3 years, ever since Dad left. I remembered the construction, remembered watching our house go up. But that didn't explain the toys, or the diary, or the strange feeling I got sometimes when I was down there, like I was being watched. Over the next few weeks, I started paying closer attention to the details. I noticed that some of the books had names written inside the front covers, but they'd been carefully erased. You could still see the indentations in the paper if you held the pages at the right angle to the light. I made out Sarah in one book, Emma in another, and what might have been Lily in a third. The stuffed animals had similar markings. Tags cut out, names embroidered on paws but picked out with careful stitching. Someone had gone to great lengths to remove identifying information, but they'd missed things. A small K remained on one doll's dress collar. A pencil case still had Megan written in faded marker on the bottom. I started keeping a list of the names I found, hiding it in my own diary. Sarah, Emma, Lily, K something, Megan. All girls' names. All about my age, judging by the handwriting and toy preferences. One afternoon, while Mom was at the grocery store, I decided to explore the basement more thoroughly. The playroom took up most of the space, but there was a small storage area behind the furnace that Mom had left unchanged. I'd never bothered to look back there before. I squeezed past the furnace and water heater, using the flashlight from my emergency kit. The storage area was cramped and dusty, filled with the Christmas decorations and old furniture that had been displaced by the renovation. But in the very back, I found something that made my blood run cold. It was a cardboard box, labeled in Mom's careful handwriting, Sarah's things. Below that, in smaller letters, age 8, blonde, moved away June 2019. My hands shook as I opened the box. Inside were more toys, more books, more clothes. But these items were different from the ones in the playroom. They were more personal. Photos of a little girl with blonde pigtails, smiling in what looked like our backyard, though the angle was wrong for our house. A birth certificate for Sarah Michelle Garrett. A medical bracelet with her name and an address I didn't recognize. At the bottom of the box was a folder full of newspaper clippings. I spread them out on the dusty floor and read by flashlight. "Local girl missing," read the first headline. The article was from a newspaper in the next town over, dated 3 years ago. The photo showed the same blonde girl from the pictures. Sarah Garrett, age 8, had disappeared while playing in her backyard. There were no signs of struggle, no witnesses. She had simply vanished. The other clippings were similar. Emma Chen, age 7, missing from a park. Lily Rodriguez, age 9, last seen walking home from school. Katie Morrison, age 8, vanished from her own bedroom. Megan Foster, age 8, disappeared from a birthday party. All the names from my list. All missing children from surrounding towns. All disappeared over the past 4 years. I heard Mom's car in the driveway. Quickly, I shoved everything back into the box and squeezed out from behind the furnace. I made it upstairs just as Mom was bringing in groceries. There you are, she said brightly. I was wondering where you'd gotten to. Were you playing in your room? Yeah, I managed. Good. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. She set down the grocery bags and gave me a hug that felt too tight, too long. You know how much Mommy loves you, don't you? I nodded against her shoulder, breathing in her familiar scent. But now it seemed different somehow. Underneath her usual perfume, I caught something else. Something that reminded me of the basement, of old cardboard boxes and secrets hidden in dark places. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Every creak of the house settling made me jump. I kept thinking about those missing children, about their belongings carefully arranged in my playroom. About the love and attention Mom had put into creating that space, into collecting those specific toys. I thought about Dad, too. When had he really left? I remembered him being here when we moved in, but those memories were fuzzy. Had he left before or after Mom started working on the basement? I couldn't remember him ever commenting on the renovation, and surely he would have had something to say about the time and money involved. The next morning, Mom made my favorite breakfast, chocolate chip pancakes. She was humming while she cooked, moving around the kitchen with unusual energy. I have a surprise for you, she said as she set the plate in front of me. My stomach clenched. What kind of surprise? I invited some new friends over to play today. Other little girls who would love to see your playroom. Friends from where? Oh, around. She waved her hand vaguely. I met their mothers at the store. Such sweet girls, and they don't have anywhere nice to play. I picked at my pancakes, no longer hungry. What are their names? You'll meet them soon enough. Mom's smile was bright, but her eyes were watching me too carefully. They should be here this afternoon. Won't that be fun? You've been spending so much time alone down there. It's not healthy for a little girl to play by herself all the time. The morning dragged by. Mom kept bustling around, cleaning things that were already clean, rearranging things that were already perfect. She kept checking her watch and looking out the window. Mom, I said finally. I don't feel like having friends over today. Can we do it another time? Her face changed. For just a moment, something cold and angry flashed in her eyes. Then she smiled again, but it looked painted on. Nonsense, sweetheart. They're already on their way. It would be rude to cancel now. She knelt down in front of me, taking my hands in hers. You want to be a good girl, don't you? Good girls share their toys and make new friends. Her grip on my hands was tight enough to hurt. The doorbell rang at 2 o'clock. Mom practically skipped to answer it, smoothing her hair and checking her lipstick in the hallway mirror. I followed behind, my heart hammering. But when she opened the door, no one was there. The porch was empty, the street quiet. That's odd, Mom said, stepping outside to look around. I was sure. She came back in, closing the door with unnecessary force. Her cheerful demeanor was cracking around the edges. Well, she said, her voice too bright. I suppose we'll just have to wait a little longer. We waited all afternoon. Mom kept checking her phone, muttering under her breath. Several times, she thought she heard something and rushed to the window, only to find the street empty. By evening, she was pacing. They should be here by now, she kept saying. The mothers promised. They seemed so eager to find a safe place for their girls to play. I was starting to understand. There were no mothers. There were no new friends coming to play. There were only children who had disappeared, and a mother who was losing her grip on whatever story she'd been telling herself. Mom, I said carefully. Maybe we should call the mothers. Make sure everyone's okay. Call them? She laughed, but it sounded wrong. I don't have their numbers. We met at the store, remember? But don't worry, sweetheart. They'll come. They always come, eventually. That night, I didn't even pretend to sleep. I sat by my bedroom window, watching the street. Part of me expected to see other children walking up our driveway, children who matched the photos I'd found in the basement. But the street remained empty. Around midnight, I heard Mom moving around downstairs. Her footsteps were different, slower, more deliberate. I crept to my bedroom door and listened. She was talking to someone, her voice soft and cooing the way it got when she was being affectionate with me. But I couldn't hear anyone talking back. "I know you're disappointed," she was saying. "Mommy's disappointed too. But don't worry. There will be other chances. There are always more children who need a safe place to play." The house went quiet. Then I heard the basement door open, and Mom's footsteps on the stairs going down. I waited 10 minutes, then crept out of my room. The basement door was still open, and I could see light coming from below. Very quietly, I made my way down the stairs. Mom was in the playroom, kneeling on the carpet in the center of the room. She had her back to the stairs, and she was arranging toys in a circle around herself. As I watched, she picked up each stuffed animal and spoke to it softly, as if it were responding. "Sarah, you understand, don't you? Mommy tried so hard to find you a new friend." She hugged the blonde doll I'd played with that first day. "Emma, sweet Emma, don't cry. I know you're lonely." She continued around the circle, speaking to toys that had belonged to missing children, comforting them as if they were real. As if they were still here. "Don't think we're alone down here. I don't think we ever were. And I'm starting to understand that the playroom wasn't built for me. It was built for all of us." The lock just clicked open.